To understand the background to the Ephraim movement, we have to look to the biblical story of Joseph and his brothers. Joseph was particularly gifted. Joseph is called the tzaddik, the righteous one. And his brothers were envious of his great powers, and they hated him and they sold him into slavery. And this had to be because Joseph went to Egypt to prepare the way for his brothers to go into exile and to come forth from exile. It was with Joseph's bones that Israel crossed the Red Sea to Sinai to receive the Torah. And all of this is a sign of what was to be in years to come. Because when the 12 tribes entered the land of Israel, it was the blessed tribe of Ephraim that was the counter to the spiritual leader and king of the nation from the house of Judah, the Davidic dynasty. And it was after the reign of King Solomon that the people of Israel were feeling pressured by the standards set by Solomon, and in the reign of his son Rehoboam, or Rechavam, the 10 tribes rebelled under the leadership of Jeroboam ben Nevat. Now Jeroboam, who was the first king of Israel, was the founder of a kingdom that lasted for hundreds of years until the tribe of Ephraim and the other 10 tribes went into exile before the destruction of King Solomon's temple. They were taken to Assyria and by Sennacherib, and they were dispersed in his vast empire. And some of them came back to the land of Israel. We see that in the reign of Yoshiyahu, King Josiah, there were members of the 10 tribes who were still in the land of Israel. But the others went into exile, and they effectively, from the point of view of the house of Judah, disappeared from the face of the earth. And thus they're called the last 10 tribes. And the beginning of their loss was when King Jeroboam rebelled against the Davidic dynasty. And we see in all of the prophets, we see it in Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel, and we see it in the 12 prophets, that eventually the 10 tribes are destined to come back. They are called by the name of Ephraim many times in the prophets, and they will come back and reunite with Judah and the tribe of Benjamin that joined Judah and became the Jews. And this is the destiny of Israel, for the 12 brothers to be reunited and for all of the repairs to have been made. Well, our question is where exactly we are on this great journey of history. A number of things have to be pondered upon from this history. The 10 tribes were lost. Now, they were not the first of the people of Israel that were lost. On the contrary, after the people of Israel dwelled in the land for hundreds of years after the entry under Joshua, there were many cases of Israelites going off and disappearing, and this has been a trend from then until our own days. In Jewish history of the last 500 years and longer, we see many Jewish souls that have strayed and gone off into other peoples and other countries, and they have dissolved into the surrounding population. And what this means is that there are potentially millions and millions of people who are biologically descended from the last 10 tribes. It's the prophet Hosea, who more than any of the prophets addresses specifically the split between Ephraim and the 10 tribes and the tribe of Judah. Hosea was living in the reign of King Uzziah, who was some generations before King Hezekiah and several generations before the destruction of King Solomon's temple. It was already in his time that Hosea got up 2 generations before the exile of the 10 tribes, and he was already prophesying that the 10 tribes would go into a bitter exile where their whole attachment to the people of Israel would disappear. In the mashal, the parable that is told at the beginning of Hosea, when he is told to marry an unfaithful woman, which is a paradigm for God marrying the people of Israel, he is told that the woman must call her children by names that signify the loss of Israelite identity from the 10 tribes. They will be called Lo Ami, not my people. They will be called Lo Ruchama, not beloved, rejected, and condemned to a terrible exile that follows the pattern, indeed even more severely, of the exile in Egypt. In the exile in Egypt, the children of Israel maintained their identity. But here, through the wheels of the divine Gilgul, the divine wheel of incarnation, reincarnation of souls in different places, in different peoples, until they will all gradually be repaired and reunited. In this Gilgul, there are potentially millions and millions of sparks of souls of Israelites that are incarnated in people that have no knowledge from their families of the essence of the Torah, but who are governed by a compelling yearning of their soul to draw back to Israel. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov discusses the souls of Israel as they are dispersed among the nations in various places. There are fallen souls. This is known from the writings of the Kabbalist Rabbi Yitzhak Luria, and in his Sefer Gilgulim, the Book of Incarnations, that there may be Israelite souls that are incarnated in a body of a non-Israelite. And there is some reason why this soul has to be brought up in a completely separate matrix and to struggle to find their way to the mother, to the collectivity of Israel. And so the question is, what are we to do today with the many, many people who are stepping forward and saying, well, I am of Israel. I'm sure in my soul that I'm of Israel. I'm a lover of Israel. I'm a lover of the people of Israel. I love the Torah of Israel. And as a person that runs an internet Torah outreach website, I have for the last 15 years been increasingly besieged by people who have been brought up not in a Jewish matrix and who are convinced that they have a mission to join with the people of Israel. Well, now, according to Torah law, there are several different categories of people who are attached to Israel. This is something that is of great interest to people who are familiar with Christianity, because in Christian belief, Jesus was seen as somebody who was sent to speak to the lost souls of Israel wherever they are. And he was giving a message that was far more easy to digest and assimilate and receive than many of what until today we would perceive as the strict and stringent authorities of the Jewish religion. And we find that many of the people who are responding to the Torah of Israel today, who are coming to us, are particularly coming from the direction of our Christian brothers and sisters. And it's very important to address what is the meaning of this, and how is Judah represented by the recipients of the tradition of the Torah with its rabbinic elaboration. How are we to respond to this great arousal of souls? And this is something of very great importance to all of us, because today we see that the world is in a state of war. Not only of military war, there's military build-ups and actual military wars, and there's clandestine wars, there's proxy wars, but there's also the war on the level of culture, the war in the level of belief, the war between secularism and scientificism and many other modern brands of ideology against traditional faith, against belief in the divine, against belief in God, against belief in the Bible. So in a time of war, it's very important to people to know who are on which side. And in the Jewish people needs to ask seriously, who are these people who in some cases are willing to come to the land of Israel and to defend the land of Israel against the many physical enemies who are trying to attack Jewish people in the land of Israel? What is the meaning of this phenomenon?